Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to do something pretty fun. We are going to install these new seats. Where are they? Right here. These new seats in the Mustang. So stay tuned and let's see how this goes. Okay, so these are seats out of a 2014 Mustang GT. They're black leather. There's a little blue stripe on them. I got a great deal on these two seats. And yeah, the car's got the original sort of factory vinyl seats in them with no headrests and no bolstering and no lumbar support. I do appreciate the look of these, the classic look of these seats, but they're extremely uncomfortable. So we're gonna put these in. First thing we gotta do, they were out of a wrecked Mustang, so you can see that the driver's side airbag blew out, so we got to pull off the upholstery, and then we got to restitch it. I have already pulled off the headrest. I've already pulled off this little funky mechanism right here, and I'm working on pulling off the side cover. So the first thing that we got to do is get the upholstery off and see what it looks like. So let's get going. So we got the seat cover off the back, the seat back. Wasn't too bad. Couple of little things. I don't have hog ring pliers, so what I did is I just kind of used two needle nose and I pried open the hog rings. Hog ring pliers would be super handy, but I just don't have any, so I just used needle nose, and I'm probably just going to reuse the hog rings and put it back the same way. The fabric does kind of wrap and tuck under the seat here, so that was a little bit tricky. There's a couple of places where the fabric kind of hooks on, and there's a few of these little clips that hold the fabric on as well. I highly recommend you get a clip puller tool, one of these. Amazon, super cheap, super handy. It beats using a flat blade screwdriver and kind of damaging them. You're able to pull them off without doing, virtually no damage. Also had to take off this little side panel thing and a little bit of wiring. I just didn't want to damage that trim piece by kind of rolling the seat around. And I also put down a moving blanket, so I really recommend it. You really don't want to scratch up this type of leather. But there's a couple of great videos online that sort of helped me figure out the process to take the seat cover off, so I recommend that you watch those how-to videos. The next thing is the fabric. So yeah, you can kind of see the reason why I took this fabric right off the seat is the stitching is hidden on this seam. So I want to make sure that when I restitch it, you don't actually see the stitching. This is special stitching. So if this seat was to go back into a 2014 Mustang, you need to use some sort of special stitching that the airbag is able to break. I think it's designed so that when that airbag goes off, it actually rips all the stitching so that the airbag has somewhere to go. Because this seat is going into my 67 Mustang, I'm not using the airbag. So it doesn't matter what stitching I use. I am also not going to bother replacing that airbag. It just doesn't do anything. So yeah, next step now is stitch up the seat cover. Change of plans. I am not going to stitch this up myself. I gave it a shot and I just don't think it's worth my time to hand stitch this. I don't think I'll be able to make it as good as factory, and it's a ton of work. I'm going to drop this off at an upholstery shop so that they can probably undo this and this little stitch here and use a proper industrial sewing machine and sew it up properly. So I'm gonna drop that off at a upholster and I will show you what it looks like when I get it back. So let's make it happen. Okay, thanks to the magic of camera work, we have the seat cover back already. So here it is. Here's the seat. It's all been repaired by an upholstery shop. They did a really nice job getting the stitching all done all the way along. So this seat cover is ready to go back onto this seat. So I'll get the time lapse going and we will get it back on the seat. This seat cover is on. It went together, I would almost say, easier than taking it off. It was really easy to put on. There are a couple of hog rings through this seam here and through, I think some other seam. I think it's actually right in the middle. And actually, I think it really looks good. The upholsterer did a great job stitching it up. They look pretty much brand new. One thing that I did notice for the driver's side, there's this little side panel that goes right here, and I have it right here, but it does have a crack on it. There's just a small little crack right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna, from the back side, I think I'm just gonna JB weld it, and that'll kind of pull it in, something like that, and kind of make it disappear. So before I put this back on, I am gonna glue it. Hopefully it holds, we'll see. Maybe a little bit of reinforcement on the back side would help. So yeah, it's one thing to note, these seats are from a 2014 Mustang GT, and you know, they say leather seats, and they are leather, but not the whole seat is leather, and this is something that the upholsterer told me. And it's evident on the inside of the upholstery where you can see a white backing on the part that's not leather. So this part's leather, the headrest is obviously leather. The lower surface here, all these different pieces are leather, but all the backing here is actually vinyl, it's just black vinyl. This blue strip here is also vinyl. So yeah, you say leather seats, and I know for me, you know, just as a person that doesn't really know a lot about stuff like this, I assume that the whole seat is leather, and it's actually not. It's a combination of leather and vinyl, and I guess probably my guess is that the leather does better over time. It holds up because you're sitting on it, you're sliding in and out, and you're rubbing against it. And maybe, I don't know, maybe temperature in the hot sun and the cold winter, maybe the leather does better, stays a little bit more of a consistent sort of firmness throughout the hot cold cycles. Hard to say. Anyway, something to learn, leather, vinyl. Okay, so the next step is the car. I'm gonna take the seats out of the car. These are, like I mentioned before, the original Mustang bucket seats. This was obviously a bucket seat car, most of them are. Potentially all of them in 67, I'm not really sure. It was a factory center console car too, but it had an automatic transmission. Now it's a manual. So the intent is to see if these seats are the same height as these seats. I have read that these seats are a little bit thinner on the bottom. So if you put newer seats in these cars, the seats actually sit quite a bit higher. Some people I know chop the actual seat pan down a little bit so that they can put newer seats in these cars. But really what it comes down to is we'll just have to take a look. So to do that, these seats are bolted in from the bottom side. So I'll probably lift the car up on the hoist, undo the bolts, put the car back down, back the car out a little bit so I can open the door all the way so it doesn't hit the hoist post, and I'll pull these seats out, and then I'll just mock fit one of these seats. Oh yeah, also have to put, I just realized I forgot to put this little trim piece back on. I'm gonna do that actually first. So yeah, let's see if we can make this happen. tried to set up the seat in the car, and as I suspected, the seat is way too high. It's a lot higher than the factory seat. And one of the reasons is that in the 2014 Ford Mustang, it has this big bracket here that really holds the seat a good 2.5 inches up in the front and about a little over an inch in the back. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drill out these factory, it's almost like a pressed in, almost like a rivet. We're going to grind those off. We're going to remove this bracket. We're going to remove the back bracket, and that's going to allow that seat to kind of sit flat on the carpet. This is where the factory seat rails sort of press into the carpet and bolt through 4 locations onto the seat pan. So I think that'll give us enough height, or as that'll give us less height so that these seats will fit in this car properly. So let's go ahead and get these brackets cut off this seat, and we'll get it test fitting back in the car. All right, there we go. The seat is in. It is lowered down. It actually lowered down quite a bit. What I did is I just used this battery out of my boat, and I did a little bit of hot wiring, and I was able to actually lower the front down a little bit and the back actually down quite a bit, probably, I don't know, at least a full inch or maybe even more. So it is sitting a bit lower. This is pretty much where the seat is going to go. It's really close. These rails here are, I mean, this rail might go back a little bit, but it's really close. I might even be able to use this hole to bolt through the seat pan, and then I'll probably have to drill a hole or something in the back and bolt through the seat pan as well. So that's it. That's pretty good. It's easy to get in and out. The bolstering on these seats there's good bolstering, but it's not nearly as high as like a racing seat. So it's pretty easy actually to get in and out. Just sitting in the car. There's my view. Looks pretty good. Yeah, that's kind of about it. So I'm going to go with this for now. If this bothers me, if I feel like I'm still sitting too high after I give it a little bit of time, then I can always take the seats out, cut the seat pans down. Won't change what I do to the seat, but I mean, I'd rather not cut the seat pans down, to be totally honest. It's a bunch of work, and right now the car is, well, it's not even close to original, but it's not hacked up. It's, it's got its sort of factory metal pieces, where they're kind of supposed to be. So that's it. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this seat back out. We're going to measure the rails out, and we're going to weld on some studs. So yeah, let's go. Alrighty, so we have the seat pan out and we have the driver's seat kind of temporarily sitting on the floor. This is the seat pan. This is the seat pan that came out. As you can see, I have soundproofer on the top side of it from when I redid the interior last time. So that's it. It is a bugger to get out. I thought it was going to be a lot easier. This side I was gonna, when I started, I was gonna save the seat pan, so I started drilling out all the spot welds. But man, it was a pain. So rather than continue to do that, I just cut off the rest of it. So we got the seat pan out. That is now scrapped. We have the driver's seat sitting in the car. It's actually pretty much perfect the way it is. I thought I was going to raise it up an inch, but I'm not. I'm actually going to mount it flat to the floor. So probably what I'll do is I'll weld some like 2-inch wide by, I don't know, 1/8 inch or 3/16 strips of metal down along the runner. I'll weld that to the floor just to give the floor a little bit more support. And then I'll weld studs on the bottom rails of the seat, and I'll actually probably just bolt those through the floor, I think. That's what I'm thinking right now. I'll probably just use rubber washers on that or something like that. We'll see. But yeah, this car does have subframe connectors, so I'm not really concerned about the actual structural support that floor piece creates. So yeah, next thing is on to the passenger side. So let's get the passenger side cut out, and we'll get the passenger seat mocked up as well. Little update. So what I've done so far is I've taken some 2x2 square tube, 1/8 wall, and I have placed it on the car, leveled it off kind of both directions. This piece here levels it off front to back, and then the level there levels it off side to side. I also leveled the car with the jack too. So, and then what I did is I scribed a line to follow the contour of the floor pan on both of them, and then cut it off with a cutoff wheel on an angle grinder. So yeah, that's where we're at. Both sides are done. So let's keep going. We're gonna mock up the seats, and then we're gonna mark out the mounting holes, build mounting tabs, and get these welded in. both seat rails welded in. You can see they actually turned out pretty nice. Some of the welds are pretty slick, some of them not so great. There was some areas where the floor sheet metal was a little bit thin, so I was trying to push the heat into this square tube first and then kind of transfer it down into the floor pan, and that seemed to work pretty good. So We have both seat rails on the driver's side welded in, both seat rails on the passenger side welded in. I was using a towel to try and keep some of the sparks away from the carpet and various other sensitive areas. So yeah, that's pretty good. So we're gonna call that a wrap for this video. This is part 1 of the 2-part seat installation. I don't want the video to be too long, so thanks for watching, and we will see you on part 2 of the seat installation.